Well, it's that time again. Welcome to another episode of Rim Shots with Sean right here in the Rock Rage Radio Network, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk. I have a fun guest here today because this gentleman I've been watching an awful lot of videos and such. The one, the only Mr. David Pastorius. How are you?
Good, doing good. How are you doing?
Plugging away, man. Plugging away. So first and foremost, let's cover the Pat Travers thing. Canadian legend. Everybody knows him. How did you happen upon that gig? Because, people mention Pat Travers, and I brought your name up to a couple people, and they're like, oh, man, he plays with Pat Travers. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, as you know, Pat's lived in Florida, I think since like the 80s now. He lives in like Sanford. I live in Melbourne, Florida, so I'm about 45 to an hour away from him. At the time when I got the gig, there was a drummer, Tommy Craig, who was playing with Pat, who's a good friend of mine. And I heard through the grapevine that Rodney, who his last bass player lived in Melbourne, Florida, where I live. Rodney, who plays now with Foghat.
Okay.
But I heard through the grapevine that Rodney was going to join Foghat. So I called Tommy right away because I know him, and I was like, "Hey, man, give me give me a tryout." And it was funny because we talked, and Pat was interested to hear me play and all that, and rehearse with, and have a get together and jam or whatever. But so I just knew Pat Travers' name. I didn't know much about him or his music at all. Like, I just assumed he was kind of just like a straight blues guy.
Right.
And also, like an idiot, I waited till like about 2 days before my first practice with him to try to learn any music of his. And I was like, so when I finally started, I was like, I think I put on like Getting Better. And I was like, oh God, it's not blues at all. It's like it's a little progressive. There's a lot more to this than I thought.
Right.
So I just focused on like one or two songs, learning them the best I could. But then when we got to rehearsal, all Pat wanted to do was jam. So, which is great because that's what I love doing. So, and we clicked.
Well, I saw some footage. I think it was from your gig because you and I were texting back and forth, and you went up and you played in the Rock Pile in Toronto and Ottawa. And I saw some footage, and it looks like you got, obviously it's tight and there's some structure, but it looks like you guys are up there just having fun, and kind of whatever comes up is what you guys roll with. It looked great.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. All the time. And Pat's super open to us improvising and doing fun stuff. And, it's super cool.
And I'm a drummer, so he's obviously had a history of great drummers. And his drummer now, who is he? Because that guy, man, he was wailing the footage that I saw.
Yeah, Alex Petrosky. I've been playing with Alex for probably about 20 years, though, believe it or not. Prior to all that, like me and Alex have a band called Local 518. My music that I write, we do like, it's like jazz, metal, funk, reggae, just a bunch of styles. It's really fun. But anyways, yeah. So when Tommy ended up leaving the band, that was my suggestion to Pat was, let's get Alex in there.
So I was looking at the, and obviously this is Wikipedia, so you got to take it for what it's worth and correct it if it's not right. But it lists your influence. So Sam Griffith, Robert Trujillo, Flea, Steve Harris, Les Claypool, Mark King, and Mike Patton. It says is your musical, I guess, hero. I look at that. Those are a lot of the slapping, kind of funky, and when you do videos, that's kind of what you do. But when you play with Pat, you're really, I call you a hybrid player. Is that a fair statement?
Okay, I appreciate that. I like that.
Yeah,
I do. It's funny. My influences are funny because it's like I tell everybody, Jocko, I can literally say had nothing to do with me originally starting on the bass.
Right.
Like I had a buddy in school who is Sam Griffith, who happened to play bass. I didn't even know it. I went to his house one day after school because Jocko died when I was 10. I didn't start till I was 15, and I didn't know what a bass was. I was one of those guys. I'm like, is that the one with 6 strings or 4 strings? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So, anyways, my buddy Sam, I went to his house and he pulls his bass out and he starts playing the Chili Peppers version of Higher Ground. And I remember being like, I was like, man, that's awesome. What instrument is that? He's like, that's a bass, you idiot. That's what your uncle played. I'm like, oh, wow. So that's originally Sam was like my first influence getting me into bass. And then I came into it at a different angle with like guys like Robert Trujillo and Flea and more metal and punk. Which for me is a good thing.
Well, and I'm gonna be honest with you, and you can say, yeah, whatever. But I wasn't smart enough to put together the last name with you being related. Just never drew the parallel. And the bass player in
Hey,
my band, he's been talking about you for the better part of 2 years now. He's been, um, he kept telling me about you,
oh, cool.
and I was like, when we connected, I'm like, yeah, guess so. I'm going to talk to David. So big fan. But do you run into people like me that don't do that
Yeah,
parallel? Yeah.
yeah, and it's totally cool. Yeah, it's not even a thing. I mean, honestly, it's like I like the way the cool thing about the name Pastorius is it's kind of rare sounding. So
It
it's
is.
like I used to play with people that would lead with that. Like this is Jocko's nephew, and I'm like, don't do that. Just like it. If you lead with that, people immediately are like,
Oh yeah.
like that. If people hear me play and then after the fact they're like, say my name or whatever, then they're like, wait a minute. It's way better to be curious as to be told. You get what I'm
I
saying? It works way better.
I think though, whether they know your last name in the relationship or they hear you play. It's who gives a crap what people think. I mean,
Oh,
like,
and
and
I, and
well, you just get the style that like when I said hybrid because I love Maiden. Nico McBrain was one of my huge influences, but I love Steve Harris. But I love listening to Cliff Williams from AC/DC and all points in between. But when I listen to you, it's like you don't fit in a box.
oh, I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much.
So you're a teacher as well.
Yeah, I teach online mostly a lot. And it's funny because I like my kind of like I know some theory stuff. I probably know more than I think I do, one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I'm not really as much of a theory head. Mainly what I do with lessons is like when people want lessons from me, I'm like, what do you want to do? And a lot of times the people that come to me, they want to learn techniques, and I am fine with that 100%. I'm like, because typically what I'll do is I'll show them the technique so you get the basic idea of how to do certain things. But naturally, once it's a concept that you get down, then you can take that concept and bend it and do different things with that concept and try different things. And that's when you start creating.
So, in terms of when you're taking students on, because I've worked with drum teachers and I had one that was amazing. I had another one that he was a really good guy, but he just kind of, for me, didn't work. How do you approach it? Because I mean, I've always, I guess, responded the best to the people that kind of look at me as who I am and try to teach me that way, not go, here's the classics, here's the way it's, like that teacher hitting your fingers on with the ruler when you're taking piano lessons. How do you do that?
I am not at all like that. I am like, hey, what do you want to do? What do you want to get into? Do you want to learn slap? Do you want to learn tap? Let's try these ideas. And then let me show you how you can change it and try different things, kind of ideas. And just basically getting a lot of techniques down. I mean, if they want, I think modes are important. Going through modes and showing them modes and basically trying to come up with different licks. I mean, that's what we all do.
Right.
We all, no one's like truly self-taught. Like I didn't go to like any school, but I learn from everybody I watch, and I get inspired by everybody I watch. So I kind of like try to do the same thing. But basically, I look at it like there's really no right or wrong unless you're talking about whether you're in time or whether you're in tune.
Yeah, fair
Music's
enough.
kind of a free for all other than that, man. So it's like, what do you want to do to get the sound out that you want? You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because I interviewed Billy Sheehan last year, and he's down in Nashville now, as you probably know. And
Mm-hmm.
I just asked him, I said, what was the differences? He said, I went to a session and I was doing my Billy Sheehan thing, and the producer's like, yeah, we don't make any money past the fifth fret. And he was like almost assaulted at first, but he got it, and he was
Yeah,
able to conform and do whatever. But I guess
that's awesome.
you got to be well rounded being the guy that I guess in the job that you are because you're playing with a bunch of different people and a bunch of different
Oh
sounds,
yeah.
right?
Well, yeah, that's what I say. I mean, it's like all the solo slap tap stuff. That's not really gotten me a gig.
Yeah.
Cool to be able to do, and it's fun, and it's nice to be able to add things. But it's like that's not really what's gotten me any gigs. I definitely
So,
don't keep a gig.
well, I was just going to say, we talk a lot on my podcast about networking, right? Like where, there's this myth that somebody is going to be found on YouTube because they're this blazing player, but most people that I talk to that are at your level, it's usually a connection and the fact that people want them around. They're capable, but they
It's
want them around, and it's a connection. Is
Yeah.
that
I always say I say it's the 23 hours off stage, not the 1 hour on.
Ow, I love it. I love it.
Because I mean, you can be an amazing virtuoso, but if you're a weirdo or an asshole, people don't really want to get on a tour bus or get in a car and travel with you. You have to be able to hang with people.
I'd be interested to ask you this question. Have you been in a position where A, you've had the opportunity to refer somebody and you've regretted it, or do most of the people that you refer, it works out and you're happy to do it?
I've referred people locally, and it usually works out pretty good. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
trying to think. There may have been a few situations, maybe, but it's hard for me to think of that right now. But
Right.
maybe. But
Um,
yeah.
I just say it simply because I have a friend who he stopped referring people because one or two people that he referred actually showed up late or showed up unprepared, and he was just like, I just don't want my name attached. So he just everybody was painted with the same brush thereafter, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I didn't really refer him, but I would in the future. There's a guy, Levon White. He's a bass player that's basically done a few gigs for me with Pat when I couldn't make it, and he kills it.
Yeah.
He's a great player. But yeah, but I mean, I've been pretty lucky with that stuff.
So it's interesting. So you're in Florida by way of Minnesota. I'm looking at your influences, and Jocko's not mentioned on there at all. Is that by design? Did you maybe for a point in time
Well, I
avoid
didn't
him?
do any of the Wikipedia stuff though, but I
Okay.
mean, I will say this though, last time I looked at it, that Wikipedia is pretty accurate.
Okay.
But I mean, no, Jocko is definitely an influence,
Okay.
but not originally. Of course, I have some Jocko in me just naturally when I play. I feel like too though, but that definitely, going back and learning about Jocko and listening to his music. The thing about Jocko though is like what's overlooked about him is that he as good as he was, his strength was his composing.
Ah, yes.
He's a songwriter.
It's interesting because the singer in my band, Michelle, when I said I was going to interview, she goes, "No relation to Jocko." I'm like, "Yeah, it's his nephew," and she's like, "He's like my favorite bass player, Jocko." And she watched you, and she was like, "Holy crap!" Because she comes from a Tower of Power background in Motown, and I'm like, that's
Okay,
what she
cool.
likes, right? And I had no idea.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a funny little story, and I'll tell you later who it was. But I interviewed somebody who I knew they were. Their father was a famous singer, and I had them on, and I didn't bring it up once because to me, the interview was about them. It was about what they were doing. They brought it up afterwards, and it never came out in the interview. Um, have you, I guess, had people ask to interview you, and if they don't want to talk about David, they just want to talk about your uncle?
Maybe a little bit. It's less now than it used to be
Yeah,
when I was younger. Maybe a little bit more, but also even back then, it really doesn't totally bother me too much unless they're just really like over the top weird about it
right.
because it's a very natural thing, man. You know what I mean? It's like
Yep.
if I met a relative of a musician I really dug, it'd be hard for me not to ask him questions, you know. So
Well,
I kind of get what time it is.
and this podcast was a mistake. It was a COVID thing, and 5 years later, almost 5 years later, I always, I would always say I don't want to be the skit on Saturday Night Live where Chris Farley's interviewing Paul McCartney, and that's kind of
Okay.
what I've prided myself on. So I got very good at asking questions that the person might have had to ask 1,001 times. So I'm going to ask you this: has there been something that you sat in an interview that you wish somebody had asked you that they haven't, that you want somebody to know about you or your career or what you're doing or how you practice, anything like that?
What do you mean, like things about just me in general?
Yeah, that haven't come
Uh,
up.
a lot of I mean, there's things that come up. I mean, one thing I mean, which is kind of cool is I don't really talk, which is fine either way. But like I'm 47. I quit drinking at 23, so I'm
Oh,
sober. That was a thing. That's been a good move on my part. I feel like that's been one of the most important things I've done.
right.
So because I was an asshole when I drank, but I luckily learned young.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's good for me. I'm not
Well, so
anti-drinking. I'm just anti-me drinking.
yeah, no, that's fine. So, I'll call this a master class moment. So, if you were to, I guess, talk to somebody about that, because we all know this industry, it's hard to be able to do that because it's everywhere. It's on riders. It's if you're playing clubs. What would you say that's worked for you that maybe might work for somebody else just to totally ignore that? Was it the fact that you didn't like yourself and you just don't do it, or what was it?
What do you mean? Oh, when I quit?
Yeah,
You mean
and just stay quit.
you mean like an advice for somebody that's trying to quit kind of thing?
Right, exactly.
Um, black coffee.
There you go. Good
I
answer.
started drinking a lot of coffee. I started drinking coffee. That helped. But I mean, honestly, I'm very lucky though because there's people that quit drinking that like I feel like they literally have to quit every day when they get up in the morning. Um, I, for some reason, quit drinking. When I quit, I was just done. And it
Wow.
was just like, I felt pretty strong about it, thank God,
Yeah.
my whole life ever since I quit. So, yeah. So, but I would say definitely a cool thing. But I also, when I did quit, there was a band I was playing in. And at the time, I had to,
I'll tell you. So I don't know what it is with interviewing bass players. I interviewed Leland Sklar,
okay.
and so we're having a good chat. His phone rings. He goes, "I got to take this." So he picks up the phone. He goes, "Just give me a second." Anyway, it was his plumber. He had a sink that was messed up, and he's like, "You got to get over." And so we left the whole 2 minute conversation he had with his plumber because he'd been trying to get a hold of him for a week. So it was really funny because people that play in bands, they have plumbing issues too, right?
Sure.
People need to see that. But on a serious note, um, how much do you practice?
Um, I play a lot.
Yeah,
It's a little different than practicing.
that's what I thought
Um,
you were going to say.
a lot of times when I pick up the bass, I mean, I should practice more, but a lot of times when I pick up the bass, I'm just always trying to come up with things and ideas, or you know what I mean, or just jam,
Yeah,
which is cool. But it would do me a service to practice more. You know what I mean, like the things I'm not so good at, kind of thing. I don't really do that enough. So, but I mean, playing is practicing. You know what I'm saying, though.
absolutely. Well, and that's the answer I thought you were going to give because most of the people that are creative, once they get to a certain point, they want to write and they want to work on fun things, and sometimes practice can be a chore and it takes the creativity out of it. So I get
Yeah.
what you're saying. Tell me about these basses that you're playing because me being the dumb drummer, I keep seeing this one bass that looks like a Fender Jazz that my buddy plays. But your basses are Merlot, is that correct?
I have a Sandberg bass. Right, this one right here. You talking
Yeah.
about this one?
Yes, yes,
That's
and
the
well, well,
Sandberg.
well worn on the body.
Yeah, what's funny is they made it like that.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, they did. Same with my other bass. I have a signature bass too,
Oh, nice.
and that's this one right here, which is the this one
Oh, wow.
with a it's got the Kaler.
So those wear marks they'd be made like that.
Yeah, it's like a little like what is it?
Oh yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
But yeah,
Very cool. So I saw you posted something. You're playing tomorrow night and Saturday in Florida, correct?
yeah, we got with Pat.
Um, and then do you have anything? Or you're kind of we're all around into 2024, but what do you have left on the year after those shows?
That's it for this year.
Then
The last show.
2025. I'm guessing you're going to be
20,
busy.
yeah, we got 7 shows in January, so that's a good start.
Wow.
So we got like a California, we got like Washington State, California, Arizona, and like Phoenix.
Oh, you're playing Phoenix. Nice.
Yeah.
Um, I for whatever reason, I met some guys out there that are super supportive of me. I've got a huge following of people that follow me and my podcast, and they've become
Oh,
really
cool.
good friends. So, shoot me a text and let me know when you're out there, and I'll see if I can send some bodies your way because
Oh,
they're good guys.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're playing at a place called the Rhythm Room.
Okay.
So yeah, I
Um,
think Phoenix, Arizona.
yeah, I was supposed to go out there last year because they have this big bike fest, and I was supposed to do a show with somebody. It just kind of didn't happen, but I do
Oh,
want to
okay.
get out there because um, I hear it's a great spot, and
Hmm.
I hear the music scene is quite good, which is good to hear because you and I know. How did you find Toronto when you're up there?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, that's one of my
Toronto
favorite
was
rooms.
great. Oh, it's awesome. The
Yeah,
Rock Pile is one of my favorite rooms
yeah.
that we play.
It's
Um,
so they were going to move it from what I understand. I was up there last June, I think it was, and
okay.
the first time, but I love the vibe. I lived in Toronto for 7 years, and um, it's one it's one of those towns where even the guy sweeping the floors will tell you you suck if he doesn't like you. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
there's a lot of
nice.
attitude there. So that's great
Yeah.
that you had it. How often you guys get up to Canada?
This is the first time that I've been up there since the COVID thing.
Okay,
But hopefully it'll be happening more now.
nice. Because I'm in Halifax, which is Nova Scotia, and I think Pat played here, but a long, long time ago. So it'd be great to see him get up this way.
We're going to be doing the what is it, On the Blue Cruise
Oh yeah,
2025. It's in August, but it leaves out of Boston and it goes to Halifax.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So you guys will have an opportunity to get off the boat, no doubt, because
Yeah,
there's some cool stuff around here. As that gets closer, man, we should. Do you know the dates on that by any chance?
I can send it to you when we're done here.
Yeah, because I'm doing actually a festival across the harbor that weekend.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
and I'm going to be in town, so that'll be cool, man. So, David, look, I want to be respectful of your time, my friend. You've been an absolute gem to deal with in the text and stuff, and I do want to stay in touch with you. But where do I send my viewers to find out more about what you're doing? If they want to get lessons, if they want to do anything like that?
Most people get me off my Facebook page. I mean, I have a YouTube page. It's all David Pastorius. Instagram at David Pastorius. I think I do TikTok, but I don't really. I
Yeah,
got a page. I throw videos up there sometimes. But
right on.
yeah, but mainly Facebook and Instagram would probably be it. You know.
Well, my friend, it was nice to finally meet you, and we'll stay in touch. Like I said, I'll get this to you as soon as it's done, and have a great couple gigs this weekend and a happy holiday. It's hard to believe, man. It's almost what is it, 16 days till the end of the year.
I know,
Unbelievable.
it's crazy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
My friend, thank you so much.
All right, man. Great talking to you.
You as well. We're back
All right.
after this.